my name is Shayla and today I'm here to talk to you about an experiment that I did recently. So recently what I've done is I realized that there are 4 demographics within manga and I realized that I strongly favor 2 of them, being shoujo and josei manga. Shoujo manga is geared towards the teenage girl audience, kind of like your young adult fiction, and then josei is geared towards your adult female audience. So I decided to try some new series in the other 2 demographics that we have, which are shonen, which is where you'll find more of your classic manga or anime stories like Naruto, One Piece, Fairy Tail, Bleach. A lot of those big battle stories are all shonen manga, but there are lots of shonen that aren't battle style as well. So I decided to try some more shonen manga as well as seinen manga. Now seinen manga is geared towards an adult male audience, where a shonen manga is geared towards a teenage male audience. So in this regard, typically when they're geared towards a male audience, I had noticed some themes that didn't necessarily make me very happy in what I was reading, but I decided to get some recommendations and try some out anyway. And so here are the results of that particular experiment. So let's start by talking about the shonen manga that I tried. The first one that I tried was Haikyuu. This is a beloved sports shonen story about 2 teenage boys who start out as rivals in volleyball. They meet on the court, they immediately ruffle each other's feathers, and our redhead here, Shoyo, ends up losing to Tobio. This was in middle school. They come to high school and find out that they are at the same high school and are now supposed to be teammates on the same volleyball team, except they came into the high school rivals. So that's kind of where our story starts. This is about team camaraderie and friendship, and I ended up enjoying this way more than I thought I was going to. Now, once I started reading this, I started to very quickly understand why this is such a beloved series. It's also a long-running series, and I am so there to watch these boys and their journey in volleyball. And I think it's going to be a wild and fun ride. I am surprised, but I'm going to take this volume by volume, and I am going to continue to read this particular series, which I didn't expect. I like volleyball, so that's, I think, why I leaned towards this particular sports manga, but I did not expect to love it the way I did. So in this instance, Haikyuu was a win for me, and I will definitely be reading more of it in the future. The other shonen manga that I tried is one that is very popular and new on the scene right now, and that is Dr. Stone. Now in Dr. Stone, we are again dealing with high school students, as it's a shonen manga. We have our friend here on the front. This is Senku, and he is a scientist, a brilliant teenager. His friend, Taiju, is in the middle of confessing to his love of like 5 years, when all of a sudden this wave goes across the entire earth and petrifies everything that is human or living, because they're animals, so I would say living. And what happens is 37,000 years later, Taiju wakes up and finds out that Senku's awake. And Senku is now on a mission to revive the human race from their petrified state and to reinstate the world in the way that it was, not in the way it is currently. So that's kind of the journey we're on. In here, it does get fairly political pretty fast, actually. You know, dealing with their new hierarchy, and there's some things that happen within the petrification period that amps up the story a little bit, I guess you could say. And again, this is another one that surprised me. I wasn't sure after the first chapter, but as I continued throughout the volume, by the end of the volume, I was sold, and I will be continuing on in Dr. Stone. Sorry if the angle changed up a little bit. The lighting definitely changed up, but my camera was dying, so I needed to plug it in. So we've changed up our lighting situation here. I gotta fix this, guys, sorry. Still super harsh, so sorry for the harsh lighting change on my face. You'll have to forgive me this go around. But yes, let's go ahead and dig into the seinen titles that I decided to try. So first up, we're going to have one that I went into not completely blind, and that is Kaguya-sama Love is War. Now, if you guys have watched my monthly otaku favorites, you know that the anime for this one made it to the list. When I found out it was a seinen manga, I was like, intrigue. So I opted to go ahead and try it in the manga format to see if I felt any differently about it. And when it comes to the story being told about these two teenagers, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is about the male president and female vice president of their class. And what happens is they start to realize they have feelings for each other, but they are not willing to concede to the other. So it becomes this epic battle royale of getting the other to confess their feelings to them. It is really fun. It is really quirky and snappy, and I just really enjoy it. So the comedy style does come through in the manga, but what I did notice is that I missed the voice actors. I really enjoyed the voice actors for this particular anime, so I think for this one, the anime is going to win for me, so I don't think I'm going to be picking up anymore. I'm going to keep this on my shelf, but I don't think I'm going to continue purchasing them. I might check them out from the library to see if there's any differences to make it worth investing anymore, but for now, I will not be continuing to collect in this particular series. So it is really fun. I do strongly recommend it. If you haven't tried the anime, go ahead and try the manga first and see how you feel. If you feel like it's missing a little something, then go ahead and try the anime. But my husband and I were in fits of giggles over the anime, and it is super fun. The comedy is really well done in this particular one, so I do recommend the series as a whole. My personal preference is just going to be the anime on this one, so I'm not going to continue to collect the manga. And last but not least on this list, I'm actually a little bit sad to talk about, and that is Tales of Wedding Rings. This was recommended to me by my friend Mike over at Otaku Mike. He will be linked down below. If you have not checked out his channel, definitely go do. Now, in this one, this is again a seinen manga, which means it's geared towards an adult male audience. So, obviously, you're dealing with very busty women. This does fall into that fan service-y kind of trope. In the story itself is really interesting. So we're dealing with two kids who grew up together, and Sato is of our normal world, and Hime has come from a different world. One night, she goes on a date with Sato, finally, and she lets him know that she's moving away. And what Sato notices is the bright light on the day he met her is back. So he knows that something's wrong, and she's leaving to go somewhere else. He wasn't supposed to remember, but he does. So instead of just letting her go, he follows her into this world, isekai style, and ends up transported right into the middle of this big fight with this abyss monster. So what happens, to save his life, Hime kisses him, gives him a ring, which means they're married, to give him the strength to fight this monster from the abyss. And that's kind of where our story pole vaults from. What happens throughout this volume is they start to grow closer, because as they grow closer, he becomes stronger. So they share a kiss. They think about starting other things but haven't. And what's suggested by the end of this volume is that he take more wives so that he becomes even stronger, which means we're running into harem territory. Now, for me, I know that harem is not something I enjoy. I feel like traditional harems objectify women. Now, granted, I'm not going to say that I'm not a hypocrite, because I love my reverse harems. But then again, I don't want to say it's a double standard, but it is. Like, I don't feel like in reverse harems with guys, they're nearly as objectified as they are with women in harems. So I'm not going to be continuing on with this series, but I'm really sad because I was really liking where the story started. But now it's very clearly going to head into harem territory, and we're going to focus on him meeting all these other girls and trying to have these girls woo him so that he grows stronger and they get closer, and it's just going to become a hot mess. And so I think, though this first volume was relatively enjoyable, I don't think I'm going to continue. Again, this is one where I might try from the library, see how I feel, if I can find a library nearby that has it. I doubt it. I'm in conservative Utah here, let's be real. So I don't know that I'll get to read any more of this one. I might borrow it from people if I know people who own it, but outside of that, I think I'm going to have to let this one go, which makes me sad because I really liked the premise of this. And I think if it had stuck to just the one couple, I would have been much more on board and kept going. But the second they're like, by the end of the volume, they're getting ready to introduce him to another princess to marry. And I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm a serial monogamous, guys, so I'm sure that plays a big part of this, but I just don't, no, I can't do it. And that makes me sad, because then this starts to fall down the rabbit hole of the seinen that I don't like. So, again, I'm really sad. I really wanted to love this, and this one volume I did enjoy, but I know the story going forward I am not going to enjoy. So, that's kind of where I'm at with this one, so... Sorry, Mike. I do thank you for the recommendation, but I will not be continuing on for the reasons that I've already stated. So, friends, those are the 4 volumes of manga and 4 series that I decided to try. I will be continuing on in Dr. Stone and Haikyuu, and for now, I will not be continuing on in Tales of Wedding Rings or Kaguya-sama. Now, I will try to find these 2 in libraries near me to continue reading the story to see if my thoughts change, but I will not be purchasing any more for the foreseeable future, where I will be purchasing at least volume 2 in each of these shonen series. So, what this experiment has taught me is that I have to pay more closer attention to the seinen that I enjoy, or that I would gravitate towards. If it was something like Kaguya-sama, but I hadn't already experienced it in anime form, I'm sure I would be fine. So not all seinen is bad. I'm going to say that right up front. But for me personally, I have to be careful of harems and other problematic issues in their representation of women before I purchase and proceed forward. So in future, I will just do a little more research to see how I feel. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little experiment, and I hope I was thorough enough in my descriptions of why I chose to read or not to read on in these series. If you don't feel like I was clear enough and you have further questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I would be happy to answer them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.